The quieter you become, the more you can hear. Still no call, no text. And it's messing with your head, isn't it? One part of you says it's over. Another part whispers, maybe they're just thinking. But let's break that illusion wide open. Their silence isn't just absence. It's a message, a signal. And if you can read it right, my friends, it might be the moment you finally wake up and realize you were never the one who needed to be rescued. They were the one who needed to lose you. Hey folks, imagine this. You're standing in front of a vending machine, you press the button and nothing comes out. You wait. You press it again. Still nothing. You hit it, shake it, check if it's broken, but at some point you realize the truth. It's not broken, it's just empty. That's what chasing after someone in silence feels like. You keep pushing buttons, hoping for something to come out, a text, a call, an apology. But the silence, that is your answer. There's nothing left in that machine. And you standing there hoping for more, that's what's breaking you, not them. Let me say it louder for the ones in the back. Silence isn't confusion, it's communication. It tells you exactly what they think of your worth. Not in words, but in the space they've left behind. And what do most people do? They start filling that space with excuses. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they just need time. No, my friends. They're not reaching out because they don't want to. And you sitting there trying to decode their silence is like trying to read a blank page, pointless, painful, and pulling you away from your own story. Here's the lie we've been fed, that if they're silent, it means they're just processing, that good people always come back, that no message is some mysterious sign of destiny. Nah, that's not wisdom. That's emotional gymnastics. The truth? If someone wanted to talk to you, they would have by now. Simple. You shouldn't have to beg for a connection that was supposed to be mutual. You know what hurts more than silence? The version of yourself that still waits for it to break. That still checks their story. That still wonders, did I matter at all? But let me flip it for you. If you didn't matter, why are they doing nothing? Because silence isn't forgetting. It's strategy. Sometimes it's shame, sometimes it's guilt, but it's always a mirror, and when you stop panicking in the silence and start listening to it, you'll hear the truth. They're not silent because you're forgettable. They're silent because they thought you'd never stop chasing. My friends, this is the part they never prepare you for. When you stop texting, stop explaining, stop waiting, that's when the real power starts shifting. Because silence doesn't mean you lost. It means you learned. Learn to walk away without slamming the door. Learn that your peace matters more than their attention. Learn that if they're okay without you, they were never really with you in the first place. So yes, it hurts. Yes, it's hard. But silence isn't weakness. It's transformation. It's the space where the old version of you dies and the unbothered, healed, unstoppable version is born. Say it with me in the comments. I choose silence. Write it down. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world. Press that like button, hit subscribe, and stay with me, because what's coming next? They'll never see you the same way again. Number 1, the pain you hear in their silence. Silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. Let's stop pretending, my friends. When that phone doesn't buzz and the message never comes, it feels like being slowly erased from someone else's story. It's not just silence, it's punishment dressed up as indifference. And yet, here you are, checking your screen again, rereading that last conversation, trying to solve a mystery that already ended. And that silence, it starts talking to you, not with words, but with doubts. Did I say too much? Did I come off too strong? Are they really done with me? That's the trap, because silence plays tricks on the mind. You're not hearing their voice, so your brain starts supplying its own, only it doesn't speak truth. It whispers insecurity. It screams abandonment. It fills every quiet moment with fear. Imagine standing in an art gallery, staring at a blank canvas framed in gold. You stare and stare, hoping the longer you look, something will appear. a hidden image, a message, some clue that you missed, but it stays blank. The longer you stare, the more frustrated you get. That's what waiting for someone's text feels like you're trying to find depth in a blank space that was never meant to hold you. And yet you keep showing up, still checking, still hoping. Because somewhere deep down, someone convinced you that silence could be romantic. That if someone isn't saying anything, it means they're thinking of you, missing you, loving you from afar. But let's break that lie right now. Silence doesn't mean love. It doesn't mean care. It means nothing unless they fill it with effort. And here's what they don't tell you. The pain you feel right now, it's not just because they're gone. It's because a part of you still believes you weren't enough to stay for. That's the real wound. The silence reopens every voice from your past that made you feel small, forgettable, or too much. But what if I told you that their silence doesn't say anything about your value? It reveals everything about their character. Because the truth is, mature people don't ghost. They don't vanish when it's inconvenient. They don't let someone who gave them heart and soul sit in confusion while they post selfies and pretend nothing happened. That's not strength, that's cowardice. And you deserve more than a disappearing act. Still, I get it. There's that voice in your head that says, maybe they'll come around, maybe tomorrow. But here's another truth bomb for you, and it's gonna sting if someone can sit comfortably in silence while you struggle to breathe without answers. They are not for you. Period. Let me hit you with a little Marcus Aurelius to shake your soul awake. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. So what color are your thoughts painting you right now? Are you becoming the gray of their indifference? Or will you rise into the gold of your own healing? Because every moment you give your energy to their silence, you stain your spirit with a story that was never written for your growth. The pain you're feeling is real, but it's not here to break you. It's here to wake you. That silence, it's not about you. It's their inability to face what they did, to give closure, to grow the hell up and speak the truth. And you staying frozen in their absence, that's the part you can control. But I'll be honest with you, choosing not to respond to their silence with another message, another reach, another, hey, just checking, that's hard. It goes against everything you were trained to do, especially if you were taught to fix, to chase, to prove your worth by never giving up. But let me say this loud, you are not responsible for filling the gaps they left behind. That was their job, and they failed. So today is your turning point. Today, you stop decoding the blank texts. You stop waiting on the message that's never coming. You stop letting their silence turn you into someone desperate for noise. Because you are not a question waiting to be answered. You are the exclamation they never saw coming. You want to know what silence really means. It means they underestimated you. They thought they could go quiet and you'd fall apart, that they could ignore you and you'd keep showing up. But what they didn't expect is this version of you, the one who's learning how to sit in the silence without begging for a sound. The one who's learning that real power isn't in screaming to be heard. It's in being unshakable when you're not. Let them keep quiet. Let them sit in their illusion. Let them act like nothing's wrong. You evolve. You rise. You move. You stop shrinking for someone who wouldn't lift a finger to keep you. So from this moment on, every second you don't check your phone is a second you reclaim your power. Every hour you go without rereading the old chats is an hour you choose your future over your fear. And every day you don't reach out, that's a day they'll start feeling what you used to, uncertainty, regret, and silence echoing in a place they thought would always be filled by you. Say it with me. I don't chase silence. Write it in the comments right now. I don't chase silence. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you are done giving your light to people who can't even send a message. And stay with me, because what's coming next? That's when they realize the silence they gave you wasn't power. It was a gift, one you used to become someone they can't reach anymore. Number 2, the illusion of waiting, and why it's breaking you. Don't wait for someone to acknowledge your worth. Know it in silence and let your absence speak it louder than words ever could. Let's get real, folks. Some of you are sitting there in limbo, phone in hand, heart in your throat, waiting for a call that isn't coming, waiting for a message that feels overdue. You keep refreshing, rechecking, rewinding every last word you said to see what you did wrong. But let's stop the story right there, because what you're doing isn't hope. It's self-destruction disguised as patience. Waiting feels noble, doesn't it? It feels romantic, like something out of a sad love movie where the music swells and the person comes back in the rain to apologize. But real life, that rain never comes. That text never sends. And that person, they're not writing a message. They're living like nothing happened. Meanwhile, you're stuck in a holding pattern, orbiting someone who already landed elsewhere. Let me give you a picture. Imagine you're in a train station, ticket in hand, bags packed, heart ready. The train doesn't arrive. Minutes turn to hours. You start pacing, asking questions. You think maybe you got the time wrong. Maybe it's delayed. You go to the board, nothing. And eventually, you realize the train isn't late. It was never scheduled to come. And you? You've been standing there, loyal to an illusion. That's what waiting for someone's text is like. You've built your hope on a platform that was never meant to carry it. Now let's talk about what this waiting is really doing to you. It's eating your time, draining your energy, and worst of all, it's lying to you. It's telling you maybe. Maybe they still care. Maybe they're just not ready. Maybe they need space. But here's what's hidden in that maybe: your fear. Fear that if you stop waiting, you'll lose your last link to them. That moving on means letting go of the fantasy. But my friends, waiting isn't loyalty when it costs you your peace. Waiting isn't love when it's one-sided. It's spiritual self-neglect. And you weren't born to put your soul on pause for someone who's playing games with your silence. Here's something Marcus Aurelius would have told you if he was alive today. It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live. And what are you doing while you wait? You're not living. You're not moving. You're stuck. You're letting someone's absence dictate your direction. But your life isn't on hold. There's no press play waiting to come from their phone. That's not how healing works. That's not how growth works. That's not how you work. Because here's the truth. If they wanted to talk to you, they would. Period. We live in a world where people text entire novels with emojis and memes to strangers. You think someone who cared couldn't take 10 seconds to send, "Hey, I've been thinking about you"? The silence isn't because they're busy. It's because they're choosing it. And you're waiting? That's not proof of love. It's proof of the lie you've been sold. And yet, I get it. You've convinced yourself that maybe if you wait a little longer, they'll realize your value. That your absence will humble them. That they'll wake up and regret how they treated you. And maybe, just maybe, that's true. But here's the danger. In waiting for their growth, you're stunting your own. You can't wait yourself into healing. You can't stare at the phone into closure. Healing doesn't knock. It walks in when you start moving. And moving doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean you're bitter. It means you've finally decided to stop watering dead ground. Some people don't come back. Not because they didn't care, but because they never planned to. And your job now isn't to make sense of that. It's to accept it, because when you stop waiting, you start waking. And that's where your real story begins. You know what waiting really does? It gives your power away. You start thinking they get to decide when you feel seen, when you feel heard, when you feel worthy. But no one gets to hold that over you. Not someone who disappeared, not someone who chose silence over sincerity. So let's end the illusion today. No more checking, no more guessing, no more building dreams on silence and calling it hope. Because you're not a backup plan. You're not an afterthought. You're not someone who waits at doors that don't open. You are the door. Say it with me. I stop waiting. Write it in the comments right now. I stop waiting. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you are done sacrificing your present for someone who isn't even offering you a future. And stay with me, because in the next part we're going to talk about something even deeper. What if they're not absent, but watching? What if their silence is the test, and they're waiting to see if you'll break first? Let's expose it. Stay tuned. Number 3. You're not being ignored, you're being studied. Sometimes they don't disappear to forget you. They disappear to observe if you'll forget yourself. Let's take a breath, my friends, because this part, it's gonna sting. You're sitting there thinking they've moved on, that they're done, that the silence means you didn't matter. But what if I told you they're not gone? They're just watching, quietly, carefully, from a distance. They're not reaching out, not because they're finished, but because they're waiting, studying, testing, seeing how long it'll take before you break. Imagine you're on a stage, the lights are out, you think the audience left, but what you don't know is that the curtain never dropped. They're still there, in the shadows, watching, no claps, no reactions, just silence. And every move you make now, it's being seen, even if they never show their face. That's what this silence really is. It's not absence, it's a silent surveillance, a test of control. And the real question isn't why haven't they texted? The real question is, why do they want you to think they're not watching? Because here's the psychological twist. The one who walks away loud, blocking you, cursing you out, deleting photos, that's someone who's trying to force an ending. But the one who goes silent and just waits, that's the one playing chess while you're still learning the rules. They're hoping you'll flinch, that you'll crack, that you'll do what you always did. Reach out first, send the "I miss you." Drop a little reaction to their story, like a post from 9 days ago, just so they know you're still emotionally alive. They're not ignoring you, my friends. They're baiting you. Why? Because it tells them if they still have access. Access to your mind, to your heart, to your time. You've become their little science experiment. Let's see how long before they miss me. Let's see if they're really strong this time. Let's see if I can break them without even trying. It's not love, it's control, it's power. And you feel it, don't you? That pull to check their page. That need to post something just vague enough for them to notice. That war in your head between "I should message them" and "No, I'm done." That's the test. That's the game. But here's where it stops, today. Because you were not put on this earth to be anyone's emotional lab rat. You are not here to perform for the ones who walked away. If they want to know who you are now, they can come correct, or they can stay out. Period. Let me hit you with some Seneca to cut through the noise. He who does not prevent a wrong when he can is guilty of it. They knew what they were doing when they disappeared. They knew what they were hoping for. They knew you'd sit there wondering, hoping, hurting, and instead of ending it like an adult, they went silent like a coward and sat back to watch you unravel. But not this time. Because you're not unraveling, you're evolving. See, they didn't expect you to stop checking, to stop reacting, to stop chasing. They thought silence would pull you back into the cycle, but instead, it's pushing you into power. You're becoming unrecognizable in the best way. Now, I won't lie to you. This part is hard. Because silence doesn't just challenge your strength, it challenges your ego. You want to prove you mattered. You want to prove you're unbothered. You want them to see your glow up, your progress, your look what you lost moment. But hear me clearly, the most powerful glow up is the one they don't get to witness. You want to pass this test? Don't perform. Don't post for them. Don't reply to their bait. Don't leave breadcrumbs hoping they'll follow. Let them wonder. Let them rot in curiosity. Let them sit in the very silence they created and discover how loud it gets when you stop playing your part. Because here's the paradox. When you stop reacting, they stop winning. When you stop showing up, They stop feeling in control. When you go completely quiet, not just in action, but in energy, that's when the power flips. That's when their silence becomes their own weapon turned inward. You think they're peaceful, but they're not. They're just pretending better than you are. They're sitting there, waiting for the buzz, the ping, the notification. And every hour that passes with nothing from you, that's not peace. That's pressure. That's panic. That's regret in disguise. So hold the line. Don't text. Don't call. Don't prove. You are not a puzzle to be solved by someone who walked away from the pieces. Say it with me. They study. I rise. Write it in the comments. They study. I rise. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you are no longer a predictable pattern they can exploit. You are a storm they never saw coming. And stay with me, because what's coming next? That's when your silence becomes their obsession. Let's go deeper. Number 4. The truth about their silence. It's not about you anymore. Sometimes people go silent not because they don't care, but because they can't face what they've done. Let's stop taking their silence so personally, my friends. I know it feels like a direct hit to your soul, like their silence is a verdict. You weren't enough. That if they truly loved you, they would have reached out. That if you mattered, your phone would have lit up by now. But here's the raw truth. They're not silent because of who you are. They're silent because of who they became when they had you, and how deeply they messed it up. This isn't about your value anymore. It's about their guilt, their shame, their inability to look in the mirror and face the reflection of someone who took you for granted, walked away too easily, and left you bleeding without even looking back. Imagine this. You're holding a mirror up to someone, a clean, clear mirror that shows them exactly who they were in your life. All the kindness you gave, all the patience, all the second chances. And they don't like what they see, not because you made them look bad, but because they finally see the contrast, your light next to their shadow. So what do? They run. They throw the mirror down and pretend it never existed, because it's easier to be silent than it is to say, I was wrong. That's what's really happening here. Their silence is not the absence of love, it's the absence of courage. Because to text you now, to call, to reach out, would mean they have to acknowledge something they're not ready to admit, that they broke something beautiful and now they don't know how to fix it. But here's where it flips, because you keep sitting in this silence thinking you're the one who failed. That if you were funnier, sexier, more understanding, more chill, maybe then, just maybe, they would have stayed. But that's the illusion, isn't it? That you were the problem, that their silence means you weren't enough. Let me rip that lie out from under you right now. You were enough. You were more than enough. They just weren't ready for someone who didn't need to be saved, someone who showed up whole. They were addicted to the chaos, to comfort, to the version of you who still questioned your worth every time they withdrew. But now you're starting to rise, and that's the version they don't know how to face. You think their silence is power, but it's panic. They're quiet because they're hoping the distance will erase the damage. That if they stay gone long enough, you'll forget how bad it really got. That time will smooth out the rough edges of the story. But you remember, not because you're bitter, but because you were awake. You saw everything clearly, even when they were pretending. Let's bring in a little Stoic wisdom for this one. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And how are you reacting, my friends? Are you spiraling in the silence, letting it eat you alive? Or are you starting to use it? Starting to rebuild your mind, your boundaries, your identity? Because here's the twist. They didn't expect you to grow in the dark. They thought the silence would freeze you, not fuel you, that you'd pause your entire life waiting for their message. But what they never saw coming is the version of you that bloomed in the stillness. The one that stopped checking their status and started checking in with your own soul. And I won't lie to you, yes, it's hard. There are nights when you feel that sting, that ache, that why wasn't I worth fighting for question that creeps into your chest like a slow poison. But that's not weakness. That's your heart detoxing from someone who fed it confusion instead of clarity. You're not broken, you're healing. And their silence, that's their unfinished business, not yours. It's the echo of a decision they're too afraid to undo and too proud to admit they regret. So let them sit in it, let them wear it, let them carry the silence they created while you walk away from the noise it left behind. You don't need an explanation from someone who knew how much you cared and still stayed quiet. You don't need closure from someone who had every chance to give it and chose silence instead. You don't need to make sense of people who don't make sense. You just need to keep rising. Say it with me. It's not about me anymore. Write it in the comments. It's not about me anymore. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that you're done internalizing someone else's fear, someone else's guilt, someone else's silence. And stay with me, because next, we're going to talk about what happens when your silence becomes the power move they never saw coming. And trust me, that's when everything changes. Number 5, your silence is the power move they never expected. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is absolutely nothing at all. Let's be honest, my friends. They didn't think you had it in you. They thought you'd break. They thought the silence would drive you crazy. They thought you'd come crawling back with one more just checking in message, one more apology for feeling too deeply, one more explanation for why you cared so much, because that's what you always did, right? But not this time. This time, your silence is saying everything you never needed to explain. It's not just silence, it's strategy. It's not just peace, it's power. It's the moment you finally stopped handing them the pen and started rewriting the story in your own voice. No tears, no drama, no final goodbye text. Just nothing. And that nothing, it's shaking them to the core. Imagine a battlefield. They're standing there armored up, ready to fight, ready to argue, ready to throw words like weapons. But you've already walked off the field. No battle, no resistance, just quiet. That's what they never expected, and that silence, it's echoing louder than your love ever did. Because here's what silence does. It shifts the power. See, people are addicted to reactions. They crave them, even negative ones. Even your pain was proof they still mattered, that you were still emotionally available, that somewhere, deep down, you were still waiting. But the moment you stopped reacting, stopped posting cryptic quotes, stopped watching their stories, that's when the panic began. That's when they realized they lost more than attention, they lost access. Your silence stripped them of the control they thought they had. You didn't scream, you didn't block, you didn't threaten, you just vanished. Calm, cold, unavailable. And in that void, something started to grow, not in you, but in them. Confusion, regret, obsession, because silence is a mirror. And the longer they stare into it, the more they're forced to see themselves, without your love softening the reflection. And here's the thing. They thought your silence would fade, that after a few days, maybe a week, you'd crack, that you'd miss them so much, you'd come crawling back just to get the closure they were too afraid to give. But you didn't. You didn't fold. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. And that's when the game flipped. Let me give you a metaphor to seal this in your soul. Picture a stage. They walked off it thinking the show was over, curtain closed, audience gone. But what they didn't know is that you became the entire production without them. You became the director, the star, the light, the sound, the applause. And now they're stuck in the crowd watching something they never thought you could become, powerful in your absence. Your silence is not passive. It's not weak. It's not you sitting in a corner hoping they'll notice. It's you standing so tall, so still, so certain. They can't help but feel the earthquake in their chest every time your name echoes in their mind. Because here's a truth most people will never admit. Silence doesn't go unnoticed. It haunts. People don't remember the argument. They remember the one who didn't show up to it. They don't obsess over the loud goodbye. They obsess over the quiet disappearance. That unanswered text. That profile that stopped watching. That heart that went from open to out of reach. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And what have you done? You've become everything they thought you couldn't. Detached, peaceful, confident. You didn't need to make noise to prove your worth. You simply removed yourself and let the silence do what your words never could. Let me be clear, your silence is not to punish, it's to protect. You're not playing games, you're reclaiming your energy. You're not seeking revenge, you're enforcing boundaries. You're not trying to make them feel bad. You're making yourself feel whole again. But I know it's not easy. Some days you'll wake up wanting to send the text, to remind them what they lost, to give them one last piece of your heart. But don't, because every second you stay silent, you grow. Every minute you resist, you rise. And every hour you say nothing, that's another hour they sit in the consequences of losing someone who loved them without conditions. So don't flinch, don't fold, don't fumble the power you've finally taken back. Say it with me, silence is my power. Write it in the comments, silence is my power. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that you are no longer reacting for validation, you're rising for liberation. And stay with me. Because what's coming next? That's when they realize this wasn't just silence. It was your evolution. And they missed the moment it all changed. Number 6, if they still haven't reached out, here's why. That's the win. Rejection doesn't mean you weren't good enough. It means they weren't ready for your level of real. Let's break it wide open, my friends. If they still haven't texted, still haven't called, still haven't reached out after everything you gave, everything you carried, everything you forgave, good. That silence? That's your sign. That's your confirmation. That's the proof you didn't lose something valuable. You escaped something toxic. Now I know what your mind tries to tell you. That little voice whispers, but maybe they're thinking about me. Maybe they're just scared. Maybe they're hurting too. And listen, maybe they are. But if someone can go this long, knowing you cared, knowing you were always there, knowing you would have answered in half a second, and still chooses silence, that's not fear, that's not confusion, that's choice. And their choice is your clarity. Imagine this. You're drowning in the middle of the ocean. You're waving, screaming, barely keeping your head above the water. And they're standing on a boat 5 feet away, holding a life vest, watching, saying nothing, doing nothing. And now they're quiet so long, you start wondering, maybe I'm just imagining the danger. Maybe I'm overreacting. No, you're not. That's not love. That's abandonment wrapped in false hope. And the silence? That's not them not seeing you. It's them choosing not to care. The longer they stay silent, the more you need to hear this. You're not being punished. You're being protected. Protected from people who only show up when it benefits them. Protected from half-loves that expect you to give your soul just to get a crumb of their attention. Protected from a cycle that was draining your power and dimming your light. Because let's be honest, you weren't blooming in that connection. You were breaking. So if they're still silent, still absent, still nowhere to be found while you sit in your healing, take a deep breath. That silence, it's not rejection, it's redirection. Let me tell you something that will rewire your entire perception. You didn't get ghosted, you got freed. Freed from proving your worth, freed from decoding mixed signals, freed from shrinking yourself just to be digestible to someone who didn't even know how to chew on real love. And if that stings, good, because the pain you feel right now, it's not from missing them, it's from meeting the version of you that no longer settles for being ignored. Let's bring in a little Stoic fire, shall we? Epictetus said, Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. You can't control whether they reach out, but you can control what you reach for. And if you keep reaching for someone who's not even extending their hand, you're not healing. You're hurting yourself on purpose. Their silence isn't proof of your unimportance. It's proof of your power. Because silence only bothers the guilty when they lose access to the forgiving. And that's what you were, right? The forgiving one, the patient one, the I'll give them time one. But now you're the silent one. And let me tell you, that's the scariest version of you they'll ever face. They thought you'd wait. They thought you'd check in. They thought you'd come back like you always did. But you didn't. You didn't fold. You didn't text. You didn't play the game. You vanished. Quiet, calm, unavailable. And now, every second that passes without a ping from your phone is a second you win. You want to know why? Because silence isn't just a response. It's a boundary. And your lack of communication is their consequence. You're not ghosting, you're growing. You're not ignoring, you're evolving. You're not playing hard to get. You've just become hard to reach. And yes, they'll pretend like they don't care. They'll post like they're happy, smile like nothing happened. But silence is deceptive. On the surface, it looks like peace. But inside, it's chaos. And the more you don't reach out, the louder the chaos becomes. For them, but for you. That silence is becoming something sacred, a sanctuary, a space where you stopped bleeding for people who never even noticed the wounds, a place where you finally heard your own voice louder than theirs. So no, they haven't reached out. And that, my friends, is the greatest gift the universe could have given you. Say it with me, their silence is my freedom. Write it in the comments. Their silence is my freedom. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that you are no longer chasing answers in people who never knew how to hold a question with care. And stay with me, because what's coming next, that's when you stop being the one who wonders if they'll come back and start becoming the one they can never forget. Let's go. Number 7. You're becoming the question that haunts them. You don't need closure when you become the silence they can't stop thinking about. This is the part, my friends, where it starts to shift. Not in your phone, but in their mind. You've been quiet. You've been still. No calls, no texts, no check-ins. And now you're becoming something they didn't plan for. Not a memory, not an ex, not a closed chapter. You're becoming a question, one they don't know how to answer, one that follows them into every room, every scroll, every pause in their day. At first, they thought they were in control. They thought your silence meant weakness. They thought you were just waiting, building up the courage to reach out. But days passed, then weeks. No ping, no reaction, no emotional leak they could feed on. And that's when the shift began. That's when confusion turned into curiosity. And curiosity, it's the gateway to obsession. Let me paint it for you. Imagine someone walking into a library, looking for a book they loved, one they used to pick up any time they needed comfort, ego boosts, or attention. They head to the usual shelf. But it's gone, vanished. No warning, no note, no replacement. And suddenly, they're no longer browsing, they're searching, desperate, because people don't chase what they understand. They chase what disappears without explanation. And that's you now. You're the book they thought they owned, the soul they thought they could reread whenever they needed to feel important. But now, you're not even on the shelf. You're not even in the building. And the quiet you left behind, it's burning louder than any speech you ever gave. You see, when you were available, you were easy to explain. They knew what to expect. They could predict your heart, your reactions, your forgiveness. They could wrong you in the morning and expect a reply by sunset. But now that you've stopped performing, they don't know who you are anymore. And that, my friends, terrifies them. Because people can recover from arguments, they can rationalize fights, but they can't make peace with a vanishing act that doesn't beg for attention. They can't interpret what they can't decode, and that's what you've become, a mystery. A silence that screams, "I outgrew you while you were busy watching me stay small." Let me remind you of something Marcus Aurelius said. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. You're not sitting there explaining yourself anymore. You're not typing out messages hoping they'll finally understand your worth. You are the worth. You are the value. You're not a sentence they can finish. You're the cliffhanger they never saw coming. And yes, they'll try to make sense of it. Maybe they're mad. Maybe they're just being dramatic. Maybe they're trying to get a reaction out of me. But none of that lands, because you've given them nothing to hold on to. No breadcrumbs, no likes, no quotes, no signals, just silence. Pure, clean, cutting. And that silence, it's making them spiral. They're watching stories, hoping to see your name in the viewers. They're checking old photos, wondering if you'll pop up in their likes. They're laughing a little louder in public, posting a little more often, hoping you'll notice. But you don't. And that's the part they can't handle, because your silence isn't about making them feel anything. It's about finally feeling yourself again. And I get it. There's a part of you that wonders, do they even care? You don't see it. You don't hear it. But trust me, silence works like water on stone. It doesn't crack them instantly, but it wears them down slowly. Every day you don't reach out, they question what they meant to you. Every hour you stay distant, they remember the warmth they used to feel. Every moment you stay unavailable, they realize how deeply they underestimated you. And that realization, it doesn't come as a thunderclap. It comes as a whisper, a song, a dream, a flash of your name they weren't prepared to feel again. And when that happens, they don't just miss you. They ache for the access they'll never get back. But here's what matters most. You didn't become this question by playing games. You became it by growing in silence. You didn't vanish to hurt them. You vanished to heal you. You didn't stop speaking because you wanted to confuse them. You stopped speaking because you were tired of shouting into rooms where no one listened. And now you're not asking for clarity. You are the clarity. You're not trying to be heard. You're becoming unforgettable. Say it with me. I am the question. Write it in the comments. I am the question. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you don't need to scream to be remembered. You only need to rise in silence. And stay with me, because next we're going to uncover something they never expected. The moment they realize they were never over you, they just never imagined you'd grow without them. Number 8. The message. Hidden in their silence, you've already won. The moment you stop chasing is the moment they start remembering. This is the moment, my friends, the final shift. The silence that once felt like rejection. It wasn't. It was redirection, reclamation, resurrection. Because here you are, still breathing, still rising, still you, only stronger now, wiser, louder in your silence than you ever were in your begging. You thought their silence meant you lost, that no message, no call, no sign must mean you weren't enough. But look again, feel deeper. Their silence didn't break you, it built you. It carved out the version of you that no longer waits at doors that never open, that no longer texts people who deleted your worth like it was disposable, that no longer begs for what should have been given freely. And the wild part? The win wasn't in them texting back. The win was in you not needing it anymore. They stayed silent to keep control, but you took the silence and made it sacred. They left the conversation unfinished, hoping you'd come back to beg for closure, but you turned the blank space into your boundary. You didn't play the game, you ended it, not with rage, not with revenge, with nothing. And That is power they never saw coming. Let me say it plain. If they can ignore you, they never deserved your voice. And now that voice belongs to you again. No more explaining yourself to people who didn't listen. No more bleeding just to make someone feel whole. No more shrinking into silence to keep someone else comfortable. You are done. So if you're still waiting for that call, that message, that apology, don't. You don't need it. Because the message hidden in their silence is this: you've already won. Say it with me. I've already won. Write it in the comments. I've already won. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you're not waiting anymore. You're walking. You're not broken. You're becoming. You're not quiet. You're untouchable. If this message hit your heart, press that like button. Subscribe for more and stay with me, because this journey, it's only just beginning.